Welcome to Caviar Conversations. I'm your host, Dr. Noya, and today we have an amazing guest who works with us at Caviar Skin Clinic, Nurse Hana. Hi.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for having me.
Today's episode is going to be all about confidence. It's going to be about nose jobs in Turkey, as well as how aesthetics and beauty affects dating life. And let's get right into it. I'm really excited about this episode.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, let's start off with, because honestly, out of the patients that I see at the clinic, I feel like over 50% of them have either gone to Turkey for a surgical procedure or are wanting to go to Turkey for a surgical procedure. What got you first wanting or deciding to get a nose job?
Yeah, so my background is Albanian, and I would say that I didn't really identify with the Albanian nose. It was a very ethnic nose, and it was actually the first cosmetic procedure that I've ever done. At the time, I didn't really think about getting surgery elsewhere, and if I could go back in time, I would have gone to Turkey for the first surgery. I just went to a local doctor. I went to who I thought would be the best doctor here, and he totally botched me. So I didn't really know about the fact that Vancouver is not really the place for plastic surgery at the time. And in Turkey, they're just so much more advanced at surgery, and specifically rhinoplasty in general. And I think it's related to the fact that a lot of European noses are not cosmetically perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so they get the best experience of all of Europe really going to Turkey for their surgeries. So, yeah, and I did go to Turkey to have it fixed, and I'm so happy that I did that because they really know how to make a good nose. Yeah.
And then what made you choose Turkey, and how did you kind of pick the right surgeon? Because right now it's so hard.
Yeah.
You're just trying to look on Instagram or find someone that knows someone and think about their experience, because it can be a little bit scary going over abroad, especially somewhere you don't speak the language. I mean, nowadays, most people speak English and things, but it's just scary. We hear horror stories on the internet, or someone that had, a surgery that went wrong. So why Turkey? And then how did you decide which surgeon?
So for me, being from Eastern Europe, I wasn't so scared to go to what would be considered a third world country because I had done a lot of travel in my country, but other countries in Eastern Europe that are considered third world. And you just have to be prepared that it's not Canada, it's not the US. Like, there's going to be areas that are underdeveloped, or like different things that are different compared to Canadian, North American culture in general. So I think for a lot of girls that go there from here, they get very shocked by the culture difference. So that's just one thing to be prepared for. And that's something that I kind of already knew going forward. I actually first contacted revision surgeons in Canada. So there were a couple in Toronto and one in Montreal, and they actually all denied me. They said that my case was too difficult. They didn't want to accept the risk of surgery with me. And that was like very heartbreaking, to be honest, because I didn't have an option to have surgery again in Canada. And, looking back, I think that that was a blessing in disguise, because I don't love the results that are given in Canada. I think the training is just really different. And so I am still very happy that I went to Turkey, but I didn't even have an option for the Canadian doctors. And so anyways, I went through so many surgeons in Turkey, so many Instagram pages, so many Reddit posts. I think one of the most important things is that you're talking to their patients. I communicated with so many patients from the doctor that I went to. And I think it's really important to remember that Instagram is a highlight reel. The content that you see can be edited. It can be fake. It can be the surgeon's best work. You're never going to see what's not their good work. You're not going to see like their bad work on there. I mean, so it's really important to not take Instagram seriously in hunting for a doctor. You can see it can be a great advertisement for these doctors, but really your decision shouldn't come from Instagram. It should come from meeting with the doctor virtually. It should come from how many years have they been in practice. And so one of the things that a lot of people didn't know was the abbreviation on their Instagram page. So if the abbreviation is OP, that's like baby doctor. So that means they haven't done that many surgeries. If you see prof, that means that they're an expert surgeon. So you ideally want to go for someone who's prof or associate prof. And you don't want to go for OP because that just, I mean, I wouldn't, because that just means they're less experienced. So it's a really big decision to have surgery overseas. And if you can go to Turkey and have an in-person consult, I also recommend that. You know, it's really not that far from other destinations. So if you were going on like a Europe vacation, you just take a short flight over and have a meeting with the doctor to make sure that you vibe.
Yeah, that's honestly so smart, because I will say in my experience, I also went to Turkey and got a nose job, and I feel like I got botched, and it's been so depressing and so awful because I have seen such beautiful results. Yours is, I've seen tons of patients with beautiful results. I've also seen some patients with, you know, they're not quite happy with their results as well, or have had complications. And honestly, for me, what I found difficult and what I would do differently is, what I found difficult is that, yes, by the time you get there, like I was already so committed. Like you are so committed. You've already paid $1,000 euro deposit. You've paid for a flight, which was around 2,000 Canadian. And then I think the hotel split with somebody was 3,000 each person. And also, you know, you've committed with somebody to go on a trip. And I did have the consult over the phone, and I liked what the surgeon had to say in my case. And then for me, the moment was where I started to feel something different was when I was in the office. It was actually crazy because there was probably 40 women in the waiting room. And I was like, okay, wow, lots of people are here. That sounds good. Half the people had their cast on, so they had just gotten surgery, and half the people were waiting to have surgery. And then when I went into the consult, I felt a lot of what I was looking to hear wasn't necessarily articulated. There was a lot of, oh, trust me. Oh, yes, I can do that. Yes, yes, yes. And I just feel, as somebody who does, you know, work in aesthetics, I do appreciate kind of understanding of like, what technique are you using, or what's the plan, or kind of walk me through what your process is, because for me, that's something that I want to hear. I know some people maybe that don't have the medical background, it doesn't mean much to them. But I think that was the moment where it was like, I don't really feel confident anymore. And looking back, I mean, maybe I should have just kind of said, I'm not comfortable, and either found someone different in that period of a trip that I was on, or just, you know what, said, I'm going to get this another time. But it's definitely something that I will look to redo. And I think from what I've learned and what I've researched is that, you know, noses have the highest rate of revision of any surgery. And I even have met some patients that have had 3 or 4 to get it right. And sometimes it meant just doing an extra little tip thing, because there might be, you know, a lot of swelling going on, or a lot of structural changes underneath that, you know, where they're trying to maybe also augment a breathing problem while also fixing a deviated septum. And then, you know, there's the tip and the alloroplasty. And actually, for such a small thing on our faces, it is such a complex thing. And because it's in the middle of our face, it makes that much of a difference with our noses.
Yeah. One thing that I do just have to say, though, is like, there really isn't anyone in this world that has a perfect natural nose. And I think that we're, especially being in aesthetics, we're a little bit hard on ourselves. But when you study the nose across different cultures and different just people who haven't had surgery, like there's no nose that's going to be perfect, even with surgery. And so it can be very easy to go down this rabbit hole of like chasing perfection. And I think that there's a lot of women too that like we just have to know when enough is enough and when we need to stop. Because when I was in Turkey, I did meet people who were on their like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th nail job. And so at some point you do just have to accept that it's not going to be perfect. It's a nose, as long as it's not taking away from your beauty and as long as you can breathe. I think those are things that are very important to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually bring a good point when it comes to aesthetics and procedures. And how do you think like the impact of social media and filters has affected patients and their expectations, as well as like how they end up viewing themselves in comparison to, this photo they're idolizing and trying to be? What have you seen in that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that I've noticed a significant amount of body dysmorphia. And while I love helping patients feel and look their best, sometimes when you're chasing something too much, it can be problematic because there's a point where sometimes the patient can be no longer grounded in reality. And I've seen this in some cases with people who are constantly like dissolving and refilling a specific area. And it's okay to dissolve and refill. Like we always, we correct things all the time, but sometimes if it becomes like a repeat pattern or like you're doing it like every other month, like there's a deeper issue in order for us to work through it. And it starts with self-acceptance. It starts with self-love. It starts with having confidence in yourself beyond your appearance. And like just knowing that your outside is just, it's just a shell. Like who you really are on the inside is what matters. And your character and who you are as a person, how you treat other people, those are the things that are important at the end of the day. We're all going to get old and we're all going to be aging and we're all going to get ugly and we're all going to die, right? So I think it's important to just remember and focus on the things that you do have. You have your health. You have your brain. You can use your brain to achieve great things in life. And yeah, we'll rant there.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I do think that's a good point because sometimes it's sad when I feel like what I see in a patient or in a person or in a friend, it's like from an outsider, it's like I see someone, that's beautiful or has a good heart and they have this warmth and that sparkle in their eyes. And sometimes it's hard when they just don't feel that about themselves and they literally can't see that. And at that point, there's really no amount of beauty procedure that's going to fix anything if you aren't happy with the way you are to begin with. A little lip filler or Botox is just going to be temporary. And then you're going to go back to that same feeling of not being happy and then looking for the next procedure or the next surgery or the next hair dye or hair color or outfit to give yourself value. But true value, of course, it comes from within. And don't get me wrong, I love the surgeries. I love the beauty procedures. I'm in aesthetics. I love fashion. I love being a girly girl. That is part of who I am and what I enjoy, though it's not something that causes me immense stress. I feel like whether I redo my nose next year, in 3 years, it's not like imminent that it's shaking my world so much. Of course, it's something I'm like, I can see something where there's a deviation I'm not happy with. But again, it's not stopping me from living my life. It's not stopping me from doing the things I want to do. It's not stopping me from having gratitude, and being just like grounded and like, okay, maybe I have a little bit of a regret or a little bit of a, new understanding of something. And, I'm grateful for that now that has taught me a little bit more about my body, about surgeries, about different techniques, like the level of research I have done now just to educate myself, because there was a lot that I realized I didn't know. And I think just building also patient autonomy and kind of learning about the procedures to communicate with the surgeon and ask the right questions. Now more than ever, it's like we've got ChatGPT to literally be like, hey, what should I ask a surgeon? What are important things? Can you explain this cartilage versus cadaver versus self? And we really have a lot of power in ourselves to get the answers and educate and get that information. So I think that's so important and puts us in a position of creator and of power and creator of our lives than a victim to, a situation that happens and just blaming something outside for all of our problems or not being happy with ourselves.
Yeah, totally. And one thing that I did notice while I was there with my surgeon was that he would judge his patients based on their size and their demeanor. And if he deemed a patient as not being able to withstand pain, he would make the decision for them to use cadaver rib instead of their own rib. And so I think that when you're trusting these doctors, but you're not necessarily educated in what your options are, you're just going to go with what they say. And that's something that I think is kind of unethical. I don't think that judgment should be made based on whether someone can tolerate pain or not tolerate pain to have cadaver or their own rib cartilage. I'm a strong believer in like choosing your own tissues whenever possible. I don't agree with like donor cartilage. Sometimes it's necessary, it's needed. And donating your own rib is painful, but it's not a decision that I would have gone back and changed. I think that a lot of people coming out of Turkey were having issues with the cadaver rib that they were having grafted. And you never know, like your body can have an allergic reaction. It's a foreign substance that's being put in. And this is the same to say with like, I know in Asian countries, there's a lot of people using Gore-Tex implants. Have you heard of that?
No.
Yeah, so Gore-Tex is, I guess, the company that creates the silicone structure that's used to build up the bridge. So in a lot of Asian nasal structures, they're kind of flat and they want that bridge. But the silicone really does not belong in the nose. There's a high risk of infection. There's a high rejection rate. So the implant is like literally coming out of the tip of the nose, and now your nose is necrosed and scarred, and it's just really terrible outcomes, and just things that we do to ourselves. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and these are the things that we have to educate ourselves on. I actually learned a lot being in Turkey because there was so many women in the waiting room. We would chat with so many women, and there was one lady, for example, she had gotten a nose job with ear cartilage, and of course it's super bendy. And she was of Asian descent, and she couldn't get that structure, so she had to do a redo with rib cartilage. So, and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that they take from the ear. So honestly, we could literally talk about noses all day, and it's such an interesting topic because it's so popular. I feel like on any given day, like imagine one surgeon had 40 people in the waiting room, half that had surgery, half that didn't. And that was one of like dozens and dozens, like that street with just like surgery center is insane. And that's in one city of one country. Imagine like if we count all the countries of the world and places where surgery is quite known for people to like fly and go abroad for. And it's insanity, but it's so cool that there's a lot going on, and even going to Korea for all the skincare things and procedures. And obviously there's a lot of different influences on that side of the world, and they can learn from other countries and things like that. And okay, so now let's chat about dating and aesthetics.
Yes.
So do you feel that in being in aesthetics, in having had surgical procedures or aesthetic procedures, has this affected your dating life, or what are your thoughts about that?
I do think that it affects my dating life. I think that um you just have to be careful about the types of people that you attract when you look like this like Barbie girl look. You have to think like a lot of people are attracted to that appearance, and this is the same with just like beautiful women in general. Like you'll attract more people, and because you'll attract more people, you'll attract more people who are not so good. So I've learned to be very discerning with who I interact with. It kind of, you want dating to be fun and you want it to be like a natural process, but as women, we do have to be a bit of a detective. And as people who are really busy with their careers, like you or I, like we do have to be very careful with our time as well. Like I don't want to go on a first date with somebody who it's not going to be a match, right? So, I think that, yeah, you just have to be super careful. You have to do your research. You have to vet them. You ask around. Vancouver's small. Everyone knows everyone. So before I go on a date, I'll always ask my people, yeah, do you guys know this guy? Who is he?
Yeah, so men, be careful. We're asking about you before going out.
Yeah.
And okay, so what are your biggest like immediate like red flags to, next someone from the dating pool?
Oh, this is a very easy one. Instagram. So I go through who they're following on Instagram, and this can tell you a lot about who a man is and really how they spend their time as well. So if I'm going through somebody's Instagram following and it's like, it's people who are educational, podcasts, spiritual, like anything that's like self-development, like that's amazing. Love that. Some men's Instagram following list that looks like very inappropriate.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of OnlyFans, a lot of strippers, things like that. So if a guy's following a bunch of pages like that, that means that that's how he's filling his spare time. And I'm looking for someone with more traditional values, and so that doesn't really align. And it, I'm happy that they have that on their Instagram, because then it shows me that they're not a great match for me. So that's one of those things that is a definite no. And I've thought about it in the past, and every time that I've like gone against that rule and I've dated a guy who maybe they had a couple accounts that were like risky, yeah, it always is this. It always turns out bad. Like you just have to know that whatever you see is like a millimeter of what's beneath the surface, and people have a lot of deep dark secrets, and you just have to be really careful as a woman to protect yourself. And yeah. So,
yeah. And also because it takes so much time to get to know someone. And of course, people are always putting their best foot forward. Of course, a guy's not going to tell you, like, there's a reason why every time an ex conversation comes, it's always, she was in the wrong, she cheated, she did this, she did that. Like, you never hear a guy just say, like, yeah, it was me, I fucked it up and I cheated and I really blew that one and I'm in regret, but I'm trying to move forward because she won't take me back. Like, you don't hear that. It's always like a sad victim story for the man at times. And of course, you don't expect to get so heavy into that until like you get to know someone. But again, the highest level of commodity that we have is our time.
yeah.
And because it takes time to get to know someone, that's investment. We are getting attached and growing a connection. It's so important. This little guy's hyper today. It's so important that we do protect our time and be very discerning and kind of have almost like a screening process for us of how how we're going to decide if someone does fit in our vision. And of course, number one, I would say you have to know what you want in life. What is it that you want in life? If you don't know what you want, how do you know when you have it?
No.
And it needs to have a little bit more depth.
Yeah.
It's got to be beyond, oh, I want a successful guy. Okay, well, what is that? It's like, okay, ambition, dedicated, entrepreneur. I'm going to take this away from you. He is so funny. He's the cutest. He has zoomies now. And what does that mean in terms of family life? What is your family life going to look like? Is religion a part of that? How are kids going to be raised? If you guys both want kids. And I think the more clear we can have that vision, then we kind of know what we're looking for. So that's great that you have. I do believe as well that having a growth mindset is definitely a green flag. Not everyone appreciates that. Some people want someone that, you know, can offer just a lot of quality time, and time spent, but at least some type of healthy things and common interests, and can save us from a lot of heartbreak. And I mean, isn't there that Facebook page?
Oh,
Are we dating?
that
I haven't seen
page.
it.
Yes, I'm in it. I use that. I do. And, you know, it's actually helped me a lot because I have said no to so many first dates based off of the information that I found on there. And, you know, if a man has treated a woman poorly, you can just expect that you would be next in line for that treatment. I don't believe that people change so fast. And, you know, I value a growth mindset. I'm always improving myself, whether it's my health or therapy, all of these things. But not a lot of other people value that. So you can't just think that, oh, like they've changed. And again, time is very important.
Or that, oh, he won't do that with me because I'm different. And I think that is a double-edged sword we get ourselves to. Like, of course, as women, we all offer a very beautiful and unique set of characteristics and values. However, the way somebody treats one person, they might have a longer honeymoon with you. They might be nicer or hold it together for a little bit longer, but their true colors will come out. And it's just a matter of time. And it's like, do you want to be on the end of that where, okay, you knew of something that happened, let's say, and didn't listen to it? Because of course we don't want to be alone. Of course we want to find a partner that suits that, and our fantasies start kicking in on our kind of wounds of what we had missing, we want to fill. And the more that we can just stick with like, okay, our intuition is telling us something, and listen to it and follow that, the better it's going to be, other than just sidelining it for some fantasy.
I think it's really important how you come across the information too. When you find it yourself versus the other person coming to you and saying like, hey, like in my past, I had treated this person really bad. Like, you know, just like telling you straight up versus like you finding info and then them acting like they're this little angel. Because I mean, everyone's on their best behavior in the beginning stages of dating while you're just trying to figure each other out. And
Okay, tell me, have you ever had to like make a tough decision and like walk away from something because it wasn't aligned, and like choose yourself first? And what was that experience like? Because a lot of women at some point have to make that decision. Otherwise, it can be made for you by, you know, you getting sick, like your health breaking down, your confidence breaking down. And was there ever a point where you're just like, okay, this is not aligned, even though I'm so attached, even though I love this person, I literally have to walk away because I'm doing myself such a disrespect and disservice to be in this?
Yeah, absolutely. My last relationship was exactly this description, and this person is not a bad person per se, of course. Like, I was in a relationship with them, but I think that over time I just realized how different our values were and how that meant our paths forward in life would be very different. And it was a very, you know, it's not easy to break up with someone, and it's not easy to like go through all of those decisions and, you know, to get back out into I think dating is just so not easy and it's a lot of work that even just thinking like, oh, I have to go through all of that process again of like making your dating apps and like all of this stuff. So I think that when you really know who you are at your core of like your values and your character, you really need to respect that and find somebody who matches that. And so for me, I'm not somebody who would historically care, for example, if the man was like above 6 foot, but I do care about who you are. And the second that you lie to me about who you are, I I can no longer be with you as a person because, um, like dishonesty is in like every aspect of life. And this person was not even honest with themselves about who they were. And it just led to way too many issues that were not compatible with my future. And so it was difficult to walk away, but I knew that it wasn't that difficult because I knew that I was making the best decision for myself. And um yeah, I'm very happy single. I'm happy to be protecting my peace. I'm happy to be working on my own goals. I would love to have a partner and find my person, but I'm not so desperate to abandon myself just to have somebody. And I think that a lot of people do that, unfortunately. And I think that comes from, again, just like not further developing yourself before you go out in search of your person. Yeah.
I think that brings such a good point with like self-abandonment. And I think that oftentimes we do abandon ourselves to fit in a box of what we think somebody's going to want. Our fears come in of rejection or wanting to like win the guy and getting validation out of that. Or if you've been single for a while or just extremely uncomfortable being alone, we often then sacrifice ourselves. And some people live a whole life that way or live a whole relationship that way. And I truly believe we get so far out from like who we are. And I remember one time in a relationship, there was a point I remember being, I don't even know who I am anymore because this version of myself that I am at this moment is not who I am and not who I know that I am inside and who I can be and what's like been presented. And I'm like, this is actually like really killing me slowly and who I am. And I think for me, when you have kind of a low that deep, you're just like, I don't want to feel this way again. So I'm going to do my best to kind of understand and really learn from that and grow of like, okay, what is it that brought me here? And what would I do next time differently? Because I don't want to repeat the same thing.
Yeah, I do think that the reflection that you do after a relationship ends was just as important as the learning that you experience in the relationship. And just making sure that you're being healthy post breakup. Like a lot of people fall into unhealthy habits, and if you don't have a control over yourself, some people really deteriorate in a negative way after a relationship ends. And it breaks my heart to see it when that happens. But yeah, you just have to be like very strong, and that's when you need to start building those healthy habits. And I think that pouring into like your family and friends during this time is very helpful. And finding a coach. Like I think coaching is very underrated. Everyone talks about therapy, and therapy is amazing as well. Sometimes your therapist can be your coach. But just like having that neutral third party to kind of build yourself back up over something. Yeah.
I agree. Like, I don't find it helpful for friends to be like, you deserve better.
Oh, yeah.
Leave them in the dust. Like,
yeah. Or girls will tell you, your friends will say everything. They'll be like, you deserve the world. Like, no man should treat you like that. They'll say anything. And like,
it doesn't work though. It doesn't make me feel better.
It doesn't make me feel better either. Like your friends love you and they'll say anything to like, because they think the world of you, of course, like they're your friends. But yeah, it doesn't make me feel better.
No. So
No.
I actually strongly believe, I mean,
Mhm.
you and I both have growth mindsets.
Yeah.
So already we're more open to growing and learning about ourselves. And sometimes that's hearing things that we're like, ugh, ick. Like it can have that feeling when you realize you've done something to yourself, or you are a contributor to this situation. You are not a victim to it. You are a contributor in some way. For that could be just in staying in the dynamic,
Yeah.
feeding into it, or getting triggered by it and acting in a certain way because of it. And I do believe in coaching or therapists or whoever you feel comfortable with. If that's a spiritual mentor, great. If it's like a coach, personal development coach, great. If that's a motivational type of coach, awesome. If that's a therapist or psychologist, whatever, depending on like what values you have for who you choose. But I firmly believe that like we're in this life to just, learn about ourselves, and we all have goals. We all have visions for ourselves. There's all something that like we would like, but we don't necessarily have right now, or something within our personality. And absolutely, you can go learn about that. You can go discover yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a beautiful thing. It's not easy work. It never is. And it definitely, you have to go through a lot of uncomfortable feelings, but on the other side of that is so much peace, is confidence, is making a different change. We all know people, men and women, that have like picked the same type of partner over and over again, and they get stuck in this cycle. And I'm a firm believer that you can change, but you as yourself, as a person, have to want it. You can't push it on someone else. You can't change your values on somebody else. You can't expect someone to change from you. And I don't think that's respecting who they are as a person. But all you can do is grow for within yourself if you want. And of course, it's not overnight. So saying I'm changed, but you've been single for 1 month, like what is that going to do? Like you have not made monumental changes or growth. And we can make changes alone, but a lot also happen in relation to others, because alone, there's nobody triggering you. You are not triggered.
Nothing's pushing you. And people will always say like, oh, I'm so happy when I'm alone and I'm so happy when I'm single. But when you enter a relationship, that's when you enter, like, you get a mirror back of who you are. And sometimes it can surprise you. And I think that when you are that inquisitive type of person, you learn from what you see, and you say, oh, okay, maybe I don't really like this version. Like, let's say, like, maybe you get a bit insecure sometimes. Like, how are you going to work through that and not let it impact the relationship? I'm just curious, have you seen the Vogue that they posted an article saying having a boyfriend is embarrassing? Did you see
Having
that?
a boyfriend is embarrassing?
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't. Are they saying single is the way to be?
Yeah, so they're saying for women, having a boyfriend is embarrassing. Like, it's
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
which is,
I don't agree with that. I'll have to say, like, point blank, like, I don't agree with that. I think if you in your heart want to be single and that's comfortable for you and that's the way you want to be, great. To each his own. Who am I to say that you have a childhood trauma and that's why you're not having healthy relationship? I mean, a part of me thinks that's true, but that's okay if that's what you want to do with your life. Great. But so be it. That doesn't impact my life, and I'm cool if you're happy with whatever. But for me, I definitely feel that there is so much beauty and rawness and love and connection in having a partner. And also you learn so much about yourself. Like you can deepen your connection with yourself, and again, using the partner as a mirror, and growing and evolving and creating something and having that like little family unit for yourself, whatever that means to you and your partner. Like you could define that in your own way. You can make your own traditions, and it doesn't matter to anybody else but the two people that are in that relationship. Or there might be more, who knows? Everyone has a different flavor.
Yeah, I don't agree with it either. I think that I'm like definitely a lover girl, just like you. We love love.
Yeah.
We love family.
Totally. Hopeless romantic. And yeah, it's something I think, like, what I would say to like my younger self is honestly take the time to get to know yourself. Take time to put yourself out there in situations, even if you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And that way you can just learn and go through the lessons faster. But unfortunately, you can't avoid them. You will have to go through them. And even when you've gone through one lesson, you can, go from one relationship to the next, and there will be a whole other lesson to learn. And either you and your partner are going to work through that, or one person, let's say, is willing. But if you don't have another partner that's on the same team as you, that has the same vision of not only who you both are today, but who you want to be in the future and where you are going, then, you can get disconnected really quickly. And I think a lot of that is happening these days. It's so like inspiring, and it feels like almost rare when you meet someone and they're like, yeah, we've been together 10 years, we've been together 30 years, we've been together 40 years. And it'll be interesting to see how the generations now are, because I'm seeing the younger generation is even like, we don't believe in marriage, and we don't believe in definitions or labels and constructs of things. And so
they're a lot more open. Like they're into a lot more like open style relationships, I've noticed. And like all the more power to them. Like that takes a certain level of strength to have that. But again, it doesn't necessarily always align with like the traditional like family values that some people have. So, but yeah.
Have you heard about this book? It's called The Ethical Polygamist, and somebody was talking about it right to me, because they were explaining the relationship dynamic. And so I've never read the book. I'm not interested in that, to be honest. But it was so interesting that they were kind of following, the type of relationship that they wanted to have based on this book. And I do see where things are a little bit more open. And if that's truly you, great, all to you. I do think sometimes, and what I have seen in people that have been friends for certain periods of my life, that I found sometimes a woman radically change for a partner. And it was like, I have never seen this person be this way or this open. And it felt extremely inauthentic.
Okay.
And I felt myself feel uncomfortable, because I just feel like I don't even feel like connected to this person anymore. And I just feel like it was also mirroring that, like, they're not really connected to themselves. And I found this like shape shifting to be, compatible with someone to prevent the feeling of like loneliness. And of course, when, I observed that relationship came to an end, it's like the person reverted back to what their actual self of what they really want is. So I feel like sometimes, yes, there are the people that are totally good with it and comfortable. And then I feel like sometimes there's the people that they don't really have confidence or a good standing of like who they are and what they want, or they don't believe that they can have what they want. Like, let's say you're like, I want a committed person, a partner that is loyal, that spends quality time. There's no cheating or anything like that, but they maybe don't believe that they can have that. So they're like, okay, well,
they'll like settle for something that's more open.
Yes, and make excuses to rationalize, well, it's not cheating because we've agreed on it, or this is the rules, like the rules around, being unfaithful or having multiple partners. So that makes it better, or that makes me feel better about it. So it's interesting. I still feel like there's some control factor within it to justify to yourself why it's okay in this setting. But I think if you're allowing it, okay, then allow it. There shouldn't be any.
It's not free.
Be free then.
Be completely free. Yeah.
Totally. It's been such a beautiful episode. Honestly, it's been so nice having you. And I think Vancouver dating and what goes on has been such an interesting kind of topic of conversation with so many patients. Of course, I mean, we kind of become their therapists and we get to know their lives. So it's so interesting as we all navigate here. And
it's a tough world out there.
For sure. And it doesn't have to be.
It
doesn't have to be, but it's just so we're all on this path and journey, and we're kind of all in this together, even though it looks a little bit different, and we all kind of have a little bit of a different vision for ourselves. And I am grateful for developing confidence, and I'm grateful that, you know, why I love what I do is, you know, to impart some of this like confidence in patients. And yes, we do aesthetic procedures, but I think a lot of the work is the connection that we have with our patients and the conversations and the rapport that we build, in being kind of a solid, you know, support system in the time that they spend at the clinic, and even friends that cross paths. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, at the end of the day, we all know that we can't tell somebody what the answer is. They've got to go through it themselves and have the lesson.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
it's been so nice having you, Hannah. Honestly, it's like, I know we've been wanting to do this for a little bit, so I'm glad we did.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been really enjoying this time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for tuning in on this episode of Caviar Conversations. I'm your host, Dr. Noya, and today has been all about confidence, about surgeries abroad in Turkey, as well as the dating scene and kind of valuing yourself. And I can't wait to see you guys next time on the next episode.